All right, ladies and gentlemen, ladies, boys and girls of all ages, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Smash Times Lead Therapy. This almost feels like a legitimate, real show now. Let's check the chat. Let's see who is in the chat. We have me. I'm in the chat. How about that? We got Randy Adams, my man. The Armed Attorneys. Look at that. What a great logo. Texan65. Let's see. Hey, Zeus. What's going on, buddy? Dan Hall. Good evening, man. Riley, North Carolina. Thanks for all you do here on YouTube. You must be talking about the Arms Attorneys. I'm just a goofball on YouTube. I just have a good time. Fluffy, John Thomas, and then me again. So our next guest, there's two. Well, there's two, but one is flying solo tonight. So we have the Armed Attorneys, but we're going to start out with just one Armed Attorney. And it's my guy, Richard. I'm a huge fan of their show. Let's bring him into the chat. Guys, get all your questions ready, all your legal questions. I know you have a bunch. I was sent quite a few. So let's get Richard in here. Welcome to Lead Therapy, Richard. How's it going, man?
It's going really good, Michael. Thanks for having me.
This has been, man, I wanted you guys on. As soon as I saw your first video about shooting someone in the leg, I was like, man, these are the guys I want to talk to because I have so many questions just like that. And you guys must have had that question a million times.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and lawyer thing, disclaimer, not an attorney-client relationship. That nothing we say here is legal advice. But, you know, what we found is, and this is kind of our big mission because we talk to so many gun owners and we get these questions over and over again. What it really started with was, can I carry while wearing a mask with COVID? And we were getting so many questions to our law firm. We're like, man, we just need to do a blog or a video or something to get these questions answered. And so that's a perfect example of a question we got all the time. Should I shoot to kill or should I shoot somebody in the legs? And it's surprising because, and we're not the tactics people. And the obvious thing to do is shoot, stop, threat. We'll throw that out there while we're on the topic. But there's so much nuance in the law where a dead body, and Emily talks about that in that particular video, the price tag on a dead body is so much higher than a price tag on an aggravated assault or, some serious bodily injury or, whatever the situation may be. And so there's these kind of crazy competing interests. And it's just kind of fun to talk about, the nuance without saying, necessarily, hey, this is what you should do or this is what you shouldn't do. It's, hey, here are the factors that a jury is going to consider. And I think it's really helpful for most people because things are very, very complicated. For gun owners, they've made it very difficult to be law-abiding, and so it's just kind of a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah, thank God I live in Texas now. Being a former Californian, you were so restricted. I was almost afraid to leave the house. I mean, out there, just to go to the gun range, you have to have your magazine separate from the bullets, and those two can't be touching the gun physically. So you have to have, then it has to be in the trunk or in a locked box. It's crazy, absolutely crazy living in that whack job state. So I'm 12 years of born again Texan, and there is no looking back.
Yeah, I was in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and I was hanging. I met a guy who was from California, and I think there was a news story about some shooter got stopped in a restaurant, and he was talking about, oh man, if this happened in California, if I stopped the shooter, he's like, I would definitely go to jail.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, what would happen in Texas? I'm kind of new here. What's the law? I was like, you're probably getting a medal from the governor. Like you're not only are you not getting arrested, and this was particular to this particular shooting, but it's just it's a different world.
It was to the point where, I worked in a pretty nice office, but I couldn't tell anybody I shot guns on the weekend because they would ostracize you immediately. I mean, I'm bald, white, shoot guns. Oh my gosh. And one Friday, I've told this story once on the chat before. It was Friday night. I had a hot date. So I went into work and I just really got after it because I wanted to get out of there a little early. About 1 o'clock, they called me into HR's office just to check if everything's okay. Am I having a bad day? I'm like, what? They thought, I swear, they thought I was going to shoot up the place. I'm like, are you guys serious? I'm just trying to get out of here, on time. Like, I got a hottie who is now my wife. I was like, I got a date tonight, man. I'm trying to get out of here. But
yeah.
Californians are so weird.
Yeah. Well, you gotta say it more cryptically. It's like, I'm building my future starting today. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, I have a date with my future wife.
Yeah, let's see who else just hopped in the chat. We got Lucky Dog, Randy, of course, Jesus, Brandon, Dale, my man, Dale Funduck. He's another refugee from California. He just moved up here north of us a little bit to like Magnolia area.
Oh, that's great.
Don't worry, we'll talk about the brace thing. Do I need to hire a historian? All right, Walker Customs. What's up, Mr. Lee Fox, my man Lee Fox? What a good guy to know. I tell you what, Richard, I have some of the coolest subscribers. And what's great about my channel is half of them are local guys. So I get to hang out. Like I'm doing a meet and greet this Sunday at the Trinity Armory where everyone's bringing their Halloween pumpkins. And I got all these little Firebird targets and we're going to blow them up.
That's great.
And I got a video dropping tonight. I had to go today and test it out just to make sure they work. And they work quite well. So it was awesome. All right. So first question that came from the chat was, are you going to charge an hourly rate for the live? No, I hope not. I probably can't afford your guys' hourly rate.
No, we have a really competitive, we bill you by the minute now.
So that's nice.
We have a really progressive model when it comes to billing. So that's.
Oh, great. All right. Good night, folks. What is your concealed carry?
So I carry a Glock 43X is my, I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate for carrying a Glock, but I'm just so comfortable with it.
No. That's totally cool. Everyone in the chat, post your concealed carry. What do you carry currently? And let's see, we got Bill Alexander, Michigan in the house. Hey, I will be in Michigan next week. I'm going to go up there and film some content with some Michigan YouTuber and have a good time, drink all his beer and shoot all his ammo. So, after we shoot. So yeah, we might actually do a meet and greet somewhere in Michigan around Detroit. So look out for that. Glock 19, Canic TPX. Have you ever shot the Canics, one of the new Canics?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, that is a surprisingly amazing bargain price pistol. Really nice. Taurus GX4, that's a good one. Bill, 1911 45. All right, Bill's obviously in his 40s because that is, or late 50s, because only a real man carries a 45 1911. You can't be a teenager. Hellcat 43X 365. Walker's here, the G2C. Great guns, guys. Absolutely great. Now, were you raised in like a gun household?
I actually wasn't. We had guns. I'm an Eagle Scout, so Boy Scouts, you do guns. But right. I want to say my father had one firearm. And being at the prosecutor's office in Galveston County, became more familiar with firearms. Got to train with their SWAT team a few times, and so I was like, all right, this is pretty great stuff. And then from there, I came on. I wish Emily would could have made it. Emily said, "Hey, I'm working for this gun group. You need to come check it out." And so after a few years of talking with her about coming and working at her law firm, now I'm a partner. I kind of just stumbled into the gun community, and man, is it like the best community on earth. And right? Man, do we have a fascinating subject matter. And so I've been doing this for about a decade now, and I just love every minute of it.
Yeah, like today I went to Trinity Armory up in Cleveland, Texas, and I met probably 15 people, the nicest, salt of the earth human beings you could meet. It's just, it kind of goes hand in hand with being a gun owner. I have met very few rude people in the gun community. They've all been really, really fantastic. Oh, so Bill Alexander is 74, carries a 19. I knew it. You got to be a hard generation right there to carry a 1911. And then John lost all his guns in a boating accident. That's going to be very common, I think, soon. How well do you think that excuse is going to hold up when they come knocking on your door?
Probably not well. It's better to say nothing than to mention a boating accident. Everything you say can and will be used against you, including the boating accident. And they could bring in someone to explain why that nomenclature, why that phrase is probably is deceptive if you actually found yourself charged with a crime. So invoke your right to remain silent. Invoke your right to an attorney. Joke about boating accidents with your friends. Don't joke about it with the police.
It's weird because if you ever watch like the first 48 and all that, if you just sit there and don't say anything, you'll do a lot better than opening your mouth and incriminating yourself.
Oh yeah, and I tell this to folks all the time. If all you do, following, let's use a defensive incident as an example. We find ourselves on the defensive side of a shooting. If all you do when police arrive is invoke your right to remain silent and invoke your right to an attorney, you will be better off than 99.9% of people. And I will tell you, as a former felony prosecutor and prosecuted, thousands and tens of thousands of folks, most people kind of tattle on themselves or confess or,
Right.
admit criminal responsibility. But if you don't say nothing, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to prove a case.
Yeah. How many times have you seen it? I watch those interrogation videos all the time on YouTube. I love it. If they just shut up, a lot of the times they just don't have it.
Well, and I'll say because, and this is part what juries expect. This is part, I think, police officers just kind of being overwhelmed. I mean, they're really going for low hanging fruit. If a case becomes difficult or runs into a dead end, a lot of times that's the end of the case. And so, they're so used to people chatting. If you shut down, you're no longer low hanging fruit. And it really changes the courses of investigations. I mean, it's something to take very serious.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we do have another. Well, we have a question. Thoughts, advice on carrier insurance. Now, I'm already biased. I'm a member of CCW Safe because it's not an insurance; it's a program. And there are a lot of some of these other ones. Like I got to go up to Oklahoma and meet a lot of these guys, a lot of their lawyers, their counsel, and man, what an impressive group. But I'm completely biased now. I was a member of USCCA for a minute and Texas Law Shield for like 2 minutes, but CCW Safe is where I'm hanging my hat.
So we work closely. We represent a lot of members of one of these groups, and for ethical reasons, I can't promote or endorse it. And so,
yeah,
we get that question all the time. Do your research. I mean, there are great comparisons. The Citizens Committee on the Right to Keep and Bear Arms has a really great spreadsheet with all the different organizations and the kind of pros and cons of each one. Do your research. But I will tell you, they're not all created equal.
No, they're not. Mm-mm. And it's crazy. Getting to meet all these guys up in Oklahoma. I went up there for a weekend, had the best time. Really good guys. CCW Safe, really. I feel it's a great program, and I can be completely biased. So, because I don't work with them directly, indirectly. I do have a link. So I'm kidding. I don't have a link.
I do have an affiliate link.
No affiliate link. I had one for a minute, but I decided to be I just join every year. Let's see. Walker's Custom says, I've got a story of a firearm accident resulting in the death of a member of our family that didn't change our family's views on firearms. I know. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, when Uvalde happened, now that you have a small child, right?
Oh, yeah. 19-month-old.
So 19-month-old. So, my youngest kids are 9 and are 10 and 7. And when Uvalde happened, it was right before the NRA show. And man, everyone was walking around like a zombie in that show because you can tell the people that it hit home for a lot of people. And it was horrible. And I thought to myself, it's like, man, if I could get rid of all the guns in the whole world, would I do it? And I would if every single gun was gone. But as long as there's out there and bad guys have them, no chance.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I talk to, we have a lot of clients who, family members commit suicide with a gun or, tragedy, accident, just like Walker talked about. We had a father-son going target practice, and son, unbeknownst to him, was behind the target. We have stuff like that. And so you hear all these tragedies and we see more than our fair share of them. But then we talk to, just at our little law firm, I mean, we probably consult on over 600 defensive incidents a year. And so, I mean, I get to see, it's so far outweighed by the good, by people preserving their own lives. It doesn't even come close. It's tragic, and we get to observe it, the tragedy, learn from it. But man, there's so much more good done that I think, and it stinks because it doesn't get super reported on. You don't hear about crimes that don't occur.
It'll never get reported on.
So it makes it it's a tough balance.
Yeah, it will. You could save a bus full of nuns with a gun. It'll never get reported on. It will never happen.
No.
All right, we got Shooting Gallery New England in the chat. What's up, buddy? L1V Alabama. Lee Fox says Bull Armory SAS. I actually just shot that, and not too impressed. Not too impressed with that gun. Bull Armory is a double stack, kind of a compact 1911 style 9mm. That's really the hot thing right now. I got to shoot it, and it was just kind of okay. For me, anyway. All right. JJ's in the house also. Felicia, my favorite person. I'll see you on Sunday, Felicia. She's coming down from Dallas for the event. All right, let's see. Another question. Best and least favorite gun you've shot since you started shooting guns?
So man, that is so tough. That is such a trick question. I really, I shot a high point one time that I did not care for. It was not mine. I can't even remember the caliber that it was in, but it just really blew my mind. It didn't feed correctly. The magazine fell out. I like shot once and the magazine came out. And I was like, all right, I'm done with this. This thing's dangerous. But they had done some customization to it, so that's probably maybe that's not High Point's fault.
Yeah, they are ugly, but usually they work really well.
Well, they put, I don't know why, but they messed with the trigger a whole bunch, and they messed with the grip a little bit, and so it had its own set of problems. My favorite gun that I've shot so far, I shot a 338 Lapua Magnum a couple of years ago, and that was a pretty neat gun.
Yeah, that thing is a shoulder breaker. If it's in a light rifle, it can. I shot it out of a Tika T3 light, which is a very light gun.
Yeah,
and it hurt quite a bit.
I think this was a Predator or maybe it was Savage. Maybe it was Savage Arms made that gun, but nice. it was a good experience.
So, were you just, I want to be an attorney? Have you always been an attorney, or is that what you just aspired to be out of college?
No. So my family, we come from attorneys. We have too many attorneys in our family. So my father was an attorney. I got a sister who's an attorney. I have 47 first cousins, and out of us, 20 of us are attorneys. So we just come from a family of attorneys.
What a crazy get together that must be at the holidays. Is someone taking notes constantly?
Oh, it's awful.
Excuse me, that's not what you said. I mean, the arguments must be epic.
Yeah, no, it's very lively, and so I thought I was actually going to. I didn't necessarily know until I was in college. And then I was decided, I do want to be a lawyer. I originally thought I was going to be a maritime attorney, do ships and shipping.
Oh, nice. That's what I do. I do international logistics.
Yeah, so I have my undergraduate in maritime administration, and so. Went and worked with some maritime attorneys. That is not a fun lifestyle. And so my sister at the time was a prosecutor for the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. I went and interned up there and found out the criminal world is so much more entertaining. And if you're going to be doing it every day, you got to love it. So the criminal side of law is definitely.
When I first got into logistics, Merce threw a bunch of my containers overboard. Force majeure. Sorry. What? Yeah, we're not liable. Too bad. What? You have insurance? No, I don't have insurance. Well, too bad for you. Sucks to be you.
Oof. And I mean, there are some the history of admiralty and maritime law and just the maritime industry as a whole is absolutely fascinating. But it's a little much sometimes.
Once your box is on that boat, they could care less.
Oh yeah.
Rough water. Cut them loose. Cut them. People don't understand. If everyone in the chat. You have no idea how many containers are at the bottom of the ocean and how many they lose. Thousands of containers a year just fall off the boats. It's pretty nuts. Walker Custom says, I have some high points. All really well. Tried to sell them over the years, but one actually missed a little. The resale value on a high point's not the highest. Dale said, just to keep things equal, we should have the better looking lawyer on next time.
Yeah, I don't blame you, Dale.
That is so. Dale's a salty dog. He's an old Navy guy. Brandon actually has a question. Do you think we'll see the ATF serious reform or abolition in our lifetime? What do you think it'll take it to happen?
So I'm of the mind, I mean, it's going to I think that they are going to get reined in, and the administrative state is going to get reined in. We have some gigantic cases that came out of the Supreme Court the last term, and everybody knows New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. But another really important case was our West Virginia versus the Environmental Protection Agency and the major questions doctrine. And just to, not to get too nerdy on it, but essentially what it says is if the Congress has not specifically delegated or given their authority to an agency can't regulate something that would be of major political significance or have a large impact on society. And so they left some kind of nuggets in there that I think are a good tell that not just the Environmental Protection Agency, but the entire administrative state is going to get reined in. On top of that, and I think a lot of people were discouraged by the very first day of the new Supreme Court term, they kicked out a bunch of gun cases, including some machine gun and some bump stock cases. But we still have one pending in the Fifth Circuit. That's Michael Cargill's case with Texas Gun Works out of Austin. He's a great guy. And I think we will see Chevron deference finally kind of see the light of day in that case. And I know a lot of people in the gun community are familiar with that. But Chevron deference is when you have the Congress define a term and you have the agency as long as they're kind of following, what the definition of what the Congress lays out, we're going to give them some leeway because they're interpreting the rule a little bit. So that's what we have with Chevron deference. But what we have with bump stocks is we have the Congress defining a term and we have an administrative agency saying, you know what, screw you elected representatives, screw the Congress, we're going to make up our own definition. And so that's not really leeway in interpretation. That's really just them flipping them the bird and going out of control. And so I'm still a little hopeful with the, with Chevron deference in the Michael Cargill case, making it up there. But serious reform, I see it coming from the courts first. I'm of the mind with GOA, love GOA, that we really need to get rid of kind of the a lot of these gun control measures before we smash the ATF, because the ATF, if we just get rid of the ATF, that doesn't make the laws go away. And instead of, having one kind of agency where we can really target and focus our efforts, we're going to be playing whack-a-mole. They're going to give some things to the EPA. They're going to give some things to the Department of Energy. They're going to give some things to the FBI. And so instead of fighting on 100 fronts, I'd rather keep it concentrated with the ATF until we can get, maybe the NFA, parts of the Gun Control Act, get all this stuff in line with the Bruin, the New York State Rifle v. Bruin case. Until we get that all sorted out, I don't want to, open Pandora's box.
DZ in the chat, is CC insurance a good thing? Okay, so the consensus is do your research on your own. There's a lot of good stuff out there and some not so good. I like CCW Safe. So I can, kiss their butt a little bit. CCW Safe is my favorite. Let's see. Let's see. Ray's in the chat. What's going on? All right. So let's see. How long have you been an attorney? It's another question from the chat.
So I've been licensed since 2013. So almost a little over 9 years. 4 of that I was a prosecutor. 5 of that I've been doing, private, criminal defense. And so the last 5 years have been almost exclusively firearms self-defense and the Second Amendment. And so, really kind of hit our stride with that material.
Now that's interesting you say that. So you just didn't wake up one day and like, you know what, let me do 2A law.
No, you kind of, and like I feel like one of the luckiest people on earth. I feel like I stumbled into this, but you just see all these questions. You see this need, this need for help, and it's like if it's not going to be me, who's going to do it? And so, you just start helping some people out, doing self-defense stuff, answering some gun law questions, and then before you know it, you become that person that's like, hey, you got to talk to this guy about this issue, and that's kind of the position that we found ourselves in. We've been, for example, doing a lot of stuff with Gun Owners of America here in the state of Texas, helping them with their legislative efforts. We'll be very active next legislative session. But we see a kind of void left. The NRA is, I don't know what's going on with the NRA, and they have served a very important function.
Right.
But there, it just feels like there's this gigantic void, on the legislative side of things, and it's kind of sad.
Well, you have some hardcore NRA members, then you have people like my buddy Barry and like a lot of other people that say until Wayne is gone and there's new management top down,
Yeah.
they could give a crap less about the NRA. I'm a member of GOA. I push GOA on everyone. I think it's a phenomenal organization. I got to talk to them, and I really like those guys quite a bit.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. GOA is the real deal. If you're not a member of GOA, I mean, GOA Texas, if you're here in the state of Texas, you need to become a member.
All right, real quick, guys. Everyone in the chat, if you're not a member or subscriber to the Armed Attorneys, I just put a link in their channel in the chat. Please open a new window, subscribe to their channel. They'd greatly appreciate it. If you're not a member of my channel, please subscribe to my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And let's see. Oh, here's a good question. Why did you guys start a YouTube channel? Was it just to, like you said before, answer just random questions, or?
Yeah, it kind of was. It was just built out of necessity, and that's kind of our mission. Is everything we do is try to make life for the law-abiding gun owner just a little bit easier. That's really what we're driven by, because, and like I said, it's all started back with the pandemic, and I don't know who started the Facebook rumor, but it caused a complete shitstorm of you can't carry while wearing a mask, and so
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't really know where that came from, but whoever started that was rough. And so it kind of became born out of necessity. How can we answer these questions and have a good, reliable resource of information for folks? And so that's really how it started. The other thing that we see is a lot of attorneys on the YouTube will talk about cases. They'll really just kind of do recitations or read the law, and that's helpful because there needs to be a resource for that. But we do the defense side of things, and we really are like boots on the ground in the trenches and see a lot of different stuff that I don't think most people get to see. And so to just kind of give that kind of practical approach to a topic that's kind of complex, I think is very helpful, and that's kind of what we find ourselves wanting to do.
Yeah, like before I stumbled across your channel, honestly, I mean, us in the 2A community, and I don't want to speak for everyone in the chat, but where do we go for clarification? I mean, There's so many legal questions out there that we don't even know. It's just bananas. So Lucky Dog has a question. He goes, will we ever see national reciprocity? God dang it. That word?
Yeah, national reciprocity.
Word. Yeah, there you go. A nationwide concealed carry. I can't talk tonight, folks.
So I would hope so. One, I mean, we have a couple of different things in the works. One, we see a national reciprocity bill offered virtually every session of Congress. It never really seems to get any ground. We do see some cases kind of pending with full faith and credit. Why does everybody recognize everybody else's driver's license? Why don't they recognize their licenses or permits to carry? So we see some work on that front. The other front that we see, and I kind of would equate this to, we are in a post-civil rights era, post-integration, where we have all these, we have this giant decision from New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin saying, hey, we have to look at the text of the Second Amendment as informed by history and tradition. And if the regulation, the infringement on the Second Amendment, we look, does this law regulate the conduct that would presumptively be covered by the Second Amendment? If the answer is yes, then the government has to show, hey, this was regulated at the time of the amendment, the adoption of the amendment, 1791. And there just aren't that many laws that would be legitimate under that standard. And part of that, I think, we might see national reciprocity. And when I go back to the kind of the civil rights era, we see all these courts going haywire, these legislatures trying to find workarounds. We're going to see about a decade of these people just getting smacked down until I think we kind of start to see some uniformity. But we're probably in one of the most exciting times for the development of firearms and self-defense laws in the entire nation's history.
Nice. So let's go back to your YouTube channel, just because I'm really curious. So we had talked briefly before we started. You said it was kind of, my first couple videos weren't that great, and I disagree wholeheartedly. I thought the lighting off the bat was pretty good. The presentation was good. You're obviously very well prepared. Being lawyers, it probably comes naturally. But even like your videos now with like the gentle push-ins, the little bit of cuts here and there to kind of keep your attention. I mean, Do you have like a whole production staff that puts this together, or is it just because it's
No,
very high quality? This is some good stuff here.
well, we do have we have our office manager who she edits all of our videos. Jen, she's incredible. She's a great artist as well. I mean, she makes our thumbnails. So I mean, a huge chunk of the success of the channel is Jen's work. And I think it's just we study. I mean, we are very this kind of. I think you'll appreciate. I don't know how much your audience will think it's interesting, but we really go back and look at the analytics for every single video and figure out.
Right.
We really focus on something and we try to master one thing in a video and then we move on. Once we feel like we kind of got that aspect under control, and we're at about 150 videos, and I will say not until maybe the last 50 videos do we feel like we kind of know what we're doing. So we're still, I would still say we're newbies.
Yeah, it's funny. I was complaining to another YouTuber the other day about I'm 2 years into it, and he goes, "Well, I've been doing it for 12, so yeah, slow your roll."
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. You guys are doing great though. Your first big one, I think, was the made in Texas suppressor law.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Now, what is going on with that? Like that, when I first heard about this even coming up, I'm like, man, as long as I keep it in Texas, I can have a suppressor. Sign me up. I'll take 24.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting law. Essentially for the uninitiated, this is part of this past last legislative session. So September 1st of 2021, we have a law that says, hey, if you have a suppressor made of wholly Texas components, maybe there's some insignificant parts, but you have no intention of making it enter the stream of commerce. We are basically, the legislature saying this is not, does not fall under the Commerce Clause for purposes of the National Firearms Act. But, that's the first part. The second part that's really important is if you want to make one of these, contact the Attorney General for the state of Texas, and he shall seek a declaratory judgment in a federal district court. Basically pre-authorization from a federal court saying, hey, the NFA doesn't apply to this item. And
You'll never get that passed, right?
Well, I wouldn't think so, but we have a few of these cases pending. And so far, I mean, this is going to make its way up to the Fifth Circuit. And here's why I'm hopeful, because we had something like this pass in Kansas where they said, we got the made in Kansas suppressor, but they didn't do this injunctive relief. They
jumped the gun a little bit, didn't they?
They jumped the gun, yes. And then so Montana learned a little bit from it. They made the made in Montana, and they had this injunctive relief provision. But I don't think their lawyers did a particularly good job, because when they went and they argued up at in their federal district courts up there, they really argued it on Commerce Clause grounds only. That's the only thing that they argued. And the court said, man, we really wish you would have challenged this on Second Amendment grounds, but so we're denying, your claim under Commerce Clause, but we really wish you would have argued this under the Second Amendment, violation of the Second Amendment. And so that's where we are here in Texas. We've evolved. We're learning, and we're arguing these cases as a violation of the Second Amendment, and saying the National Firearms Act with regard to suppressors is not legitimate. And we'll see these court cases are going to see the light of day, and we'll see. I'm very hopeful. The Fifth Circuit is very firearm friendly.
All right. So if you're a betting man, are you putting your chips like 2 years from now? We can go back and look at this. Where do your chips fall?
2 years from now, we will. This case is scheduled for trial summer of next year. It will get a decision rendered shortly thereafter. It will get appealed to the United States Supreme Court. I'm saying probably 3 years. We might have some closure on this.
Oh my gosh. All right. Will had a question. Do you ever see the NFA really go away? Well, we kind of already went over that. Well, that was ATF. NFA, man, I would love the NFA. And if it did, what would you buy?
I mean, it's got to be a machine gun, right?
Right? We just start making them in mass. It'd be sweet.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, man. Stabilizing braces. This is another one. A lot of people are kind of scared, but it's funny. I was actually going to make a few SBRs. I was going to file and do all the paperwork on 2 rifles. And then now if I do it, everyone's going to call me a sellout, because it's like, oh, you're just selling out. I was like, I was going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But what do you think the stabilizing brace is going to go into effect and really start? What do you foresee?
So we have and I can't, this, I am hopeful that this is true, but we have heard from different independent sources that the stabilizing in the SBR amnesty, that rule may never see the light of day again. That may completely just go by the wayside. And
That
so
would be amazing.
I don't want to speculate too much on it. And I get that question a lot. Hey, I want to make it, compliant, SBR. I'm thinking about how does this point system in the schedule work, or can I change the characteristics of my stabilizing brace SBR that's been amnestied? We've gotten all these questions, and for the time being, all we should do is just kind of hold our horses and watch and wait and see what happens, because I will tell you, I think it's more up in the air than a lot of people think it is.
Nice. JJ says he's been a subscriber of yours for a long time already.
That's great. Hey, JJ.
Let's see. So has Dan. Oh, nice. You have a lot of good subscribers here. Voting and carrying. I thought that was a very good question, because I carry every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go vote next Tuesday like everyone else. And just for everyone in the chat, what did that come down? Can you carry while you vote, or does it depend on the location?
So in Texas, it's easy. I can tell you Texas is easy. Can't carry into the location where voting is taking place. And so, you'd normally be able to carry into your public library. But if that's a voting location on that day, or early voting location that day, can't carry under Texas law. Every state's going to be different, though. Some states have laws saying you can't come within 100 feet of a polling place. Some places have no regulation whatsoever. And so it's really going to depend on where you're at. So obviously check your state's law. But Texas, it is a bright line, black and white. Do not carry into your polling location.
Oh my gosh. Look at this guy. Beto 2024. Please don't. I mean, it's so funny. We have a lady on our block that has a Beto thing right next to all her Halloween decorations. And I don't know if she's just being facetious or funny or ironic, but it's pretty scary. That guy is weird.
Yeah, I have a family friend who made he made his little decoration graveyard. He had some Beto signs in it, so for Halloween.
Oh, it's terrible. It is terrible. So shooting in the legs, we talked about that briefly earlier. So should you shoot someone in the legs to shoot to wound or shoot to kill?
I would say shoot to stop the threat. Obviously you need to act reasonably. I mean, you got to be responding. It has to be immediately necessary and reasonable, and in response to an unlawful force, depending on the level of force that the person's threatening you with. That's the amount of force. Respond proportionately. But I would say stop the threat. I mean, that's the way to go. But I will tell you, the difference for an attorney getting charged with murder and getting charged with aggravated assault or deadly conduct or some other kind of crime, maybe it's a misdemeanor or low level felony, there is humongous price tag differences between those charges. And so if you can stop the threat, I always talk to my clients about this, use the least amount of force necessary to stop the threat. But I will say there is kind of a catch-22 here, because if you are intentionally aiming for the legs, I can see an enterprising prosecutor say, hey, this person really wasn't a threat, or you had time to calculate and point it in a less lethal direction.
Right.
Therefore, it clearly was not immediately necessary because you had time to make this calculation. So, that's one of those things where use the least amount of force necessary to stop the threat. Stop the threat. Don't talk to the police.
All right. So only use 2 magazines that don't reload for the third.
Well, funny story. So I have a colleague.
A funny story about that.
So I have a colleague out in Florida, and he was having me review this. We lawyers kind of communicate, pass files around, get second opinions. And so he gave me a file and wanted me to check it out to say hey, what's your thought on this shoot? And so I look at it. It's a guy getting robbed at an ATM. He shoots the attempted robber. Looks like a great shoot. I was like, oh, this is great. And I have the video running. I'm kind of typing my email out to him. The video is still running. 2 or 3 minutes go by. Guy comes back, gets out of his car, and unloads onto the robber, who's on the ground at this point. It's like, okay, this just became not a good shoot.
That's not good at all.
No.
Definitely should have turned that camera off.
It was actually an interesting angle. It was a ATM camera. It was from the inside of the ATM looking outward.
Yeah, but everybody knows ATMs have cameras. He knew. I mean, God.
Not smart.
Absolutely premeditated. Terrible. What is your thoughts? How do I word this? Hmm. No, let's keep it fun. What is the weirdest case you've been involved in? Self-defense case.
So there's a lot of bizarre issues we see, especially when it comes to so. And I'll give you a few examples. Some of these stories are mine. Some of these stories aren't mine. But the way that bullets behave really can be bizarre. I've seen, uh,
Right.
complaining witnesses who got shot in the forehead and a bullet would ride, stayed on the exterior of their skull, but under their skin and rid all the way back and exited the back of the head. Because you think somebody gets shot dead center in the middle of the head, you're like, oh, that guy died. Like, that's just how that works, right? But apparently, no. I had a guy who shot, broke a rib, bullet exited arm. So I think that kind of stuff is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Kind of the ballistics, being able to look at a bullet wound and say how close was the person, because you can see just these microscopic burns from gunpowder. If they're really really close, just that aspect to me is very interesting. The other aspect that I think is really fascinating is just how much leeway juries don't give folks, because of just kind of our chemical responses and just how we work as human beings and our action reaction times. And we're not very sympathetic to folks who find themselves in these self-defense cases.
Right.
But a good example that illustrates that is, if you decide, let's say I decide to draw my holstered handgun and discharge it and shoot a threat. I make that decision, draw a handgun, present, shoot. Maybe that takes a second and a half to 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. Let's say that's how long it takes. In the meantime, if this person, let's say they spin around, because we see these cases happen in the news. Ooh, person shot in the back, right?
Right.
Well, it takes half a second to spin around. And so let's say that even if you observe this person spinning around, the time it would take for your brain to observe that, make a new decision, and then execute that new decision, we're talking about another 2.5 seconds or so. And so the only way that you could stop, and it's difficult to explain this to a jury, the only way you could stop shooting is if you had a time machine and went back and decided not to make that original shot. And
Yeah,
so,
actually, I saw a video of this perp shooting behind him as he was running with his
yeah,
arm back, and he got shot in the back twice. Thank God that there was video though, because it just looked like he just got shot in the back. But he was running, shooting behind him. I thought that was crazy.
yeah. And it's a cool, I'll say it is a cool trend in expert witness, how expert witnesses are being used now. We see a big trend shift from, we used to get all these self-defense experts who'd come in and talk about self-defense and reasonableness and all this other stuff. And just to kind of see that shift to where we're really focusing on hyper disciplined people who, this guy's only going to talk about how fast human beings can turn around. That's the only thing they're going to talk about. So, just kind of seeing that change and how these things show up in court, I think is really fascinating.
Yeah. So what about getting your gun modified as far as like triggers and putting fancy? Because I know you guys had a video on that, and that was really I found that was probably one of the most interesting videos you guys did because, man, I was gonna get my concealed carry gun like Cerakoted and do like a little trigger job on it, and I watched that video and I'm like, yeah, never mind.
Yes.
Should you keep your concealed carry gun as close to stock as possible?
Yeah, I kind of break it down into two different categories. The first is function enhancing modifications. The second is non-function enhancing modifications. So function enhancing, think about modifying a trigger, think about, optic, red dot, things that would make you more lethal, more effective. No, those types of things, I wouldn't really lose any sleep over that if you're going to make that change to your firearm.
Right.
And your attorney should be able to, and I'll tell you, most prosecutors and police officers, they're not as wise on this stuff as maybe you and I would think. We eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. To them, this is just a job, and they maybe don't care about it. So the chances that they know that we have modifications to it or to a firearm, they might not even know that. But the second category, which I kind of caution people from, is non-function enhancing modifications. And so for non-function enhancing modifications, that would be something like painting your gun to look like a Nintendo blaster, or cheeky phrases, or,
Oh yeah, I was
like,
gonna say that.
dust
Nice
covered,
grips with anti. Yeah.
nice, modifications to a firearm that would, I'm trying to think of another, like dust covers when they pop open, they say smile, Smile Mother, you know what the next
Oh yeah,
part is.
yeah. Actually, I have one of those.
So like those are good range guns. Those are great, you know, show pieces, talking pieces. But I wouldn't want to carry something around like that as my self-defense firearm.
And that comes to training too. Like if they find out, like say you take weekly training, because I have a buddy of mine in the logistics community, suit and tie, kind of looks like a bookworm. Every single weekend he's taking training, and
Wow.
you would never ever know it until, well, he likes to tell me, but you would never know it. You know, it's so weird. So if you do take training and you have something go down, you should absolutely not volunteer that information, right?
No, no, don't volunteer that information, and they're not going to know. They're not going to know that you have this specialized training unless you bring it to their attention. And a lot of, you know, this is just part of our, you know, human instinct. You know, especially you feel you've hurt someone, even though they've attacked you, even though they're terrible. You know,
Right.
you've hurt someone. Police officers asking questions. A lot of us have family members, friends who are police officers. Also, it's just a human being thing. We want to be helpful. We want to answer questions. And so you might volunteer or try to explain your actions. And a lot of times we see folks mention, hey, I have specialized training and things like that. But absent you saying something about it, they're never going to learn about it. So don't say anything.
Right. Remember, folks, keep quiet. Stop the talk. Watch First 48. It's all in there. What do you think are some common misconceptions when it comes to concealed carry?
So things that come up frequently, I would say, are, yeah, I mean, we still get these myths of, you know, drag the body inside. You know, if you shoot somebody, you know, I know that sounds silly, and nobody, probably in every person in the chat, like you would never think that, but there are people who sincerely believe like that's what you should do. You know, that's an awful deal, because your physical evidence is not going to line up with, you know, the ballistics aren't going to line up with whatever they find at that scene, and so that's a really, really bad idea.
They're going to start calling you Paul Pelosi.
Right.
How did the glass get outside the door? It's amazing how that works.
Interesting. But, you know, the other things are, and this is what I talk to a lot of folks about, is they're just kind of scared to carry because the laws are too complicated, or they feel like they're going to make a mistake, or they're going to carry into a prohibited location. And it's sad, because I see a lot of folks who voluntarily disarm because they're afraid of breaking the law. And so just knowing the basics, I think, you know, we, since everybody here, I'm sure, is a veteran of Texas gun laws or your state's gun laws, you know, being able to say, just understand the basics. I mean, that's really, really important.
Yeah. I was carrying in a 5150, like restaurant bar. And, the guy came over and goes, "Hey man, just let you know, this is, I guess it was showing." And he goes, "Just to let you know, I wasn't drinking. You know, you don't drink and carry." And he goes, "Just to let you know, you can't really conceal carry here, but if you want to take it out to your car, I'll watch all your stuff for you real quick." Very cool about it.
Right.
And most people aren't gonna throw a big fit. Like if I go into a mall and I see a sign, I've never seen the sign. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen that "don't carry a gun in the mall" sign. And if they find it, like, oh, my mistake, my bad.
No, and I'll say that's a really good example of a misconception. We talked to a lot of folks who were like, oh, you know, 30-06, 30-7, now with Texas constitutional carry, or general trespass 30-5. And I there's this, maybe the misconception is, oh, if I conceal carry that, because that's, you know, what most folks do, past this sign, that there's going to be some kind of, they're going to know that I'm carrying. They're going to go notify law enforcement, and I'm just going to be doing my business, and a cop's hand is going to land on my shoulder. And we just don't see that happening. I mean, 99.99% of the time, the owner or somebody with apparent authority is going to come over and say, "Hey, you can't carry here," just like your example. And
yeah, the guy was really cool about it. I mean, he's not going to burn a customer over some law. He probably, even if he does agree with it, you know, hey, can you just not carry here? It's cool.
Yeah, no, and so that we, especially in Texas, I mean, that's what we see as a practical matter. That's the law.
So as far as brandishing too, because I know a lot of people that won't carry guns because, what if someone sees it? What if it's imprinting? I don't want to get in trouble.
So, you know, Texas, I mean, and this is Texas law, each state's a little bit different, but printing, that's not a real thing we have here. So long as no part of the firearm is visible, or the handgun is visible based on ordinary observation, it's considered concealed. You know, I could be wearing a spandex Spider-Man costume with a firearm right in the middle of my chest, but if you can't actually lay eyes on the gun itself, you know, that's going to be considered concealed. And so, does it go into, if I threaten somebody and then they know I have a firearm, does that, cause problems? It can.
So
But
let
so
me
long
ask
as
you a
it's staying in
question.
your holster, it's usually okay.
As a layman, I always thought they really push for open carry just because of that reason. Like, can they just say if there was brandishing and, I just saw the whole gun, it's an open carry state. So is that really a big deal?
No, I mean, absent some other action, putting your hand on it, removing it from the holster, absent some other action, the presence of the firearm on a holster on your hip just by itself, that's not going to be a crime, even if you threaten somebody. So, I think the big push for open carry, and I mean, for a lot of different reasons, but it came because we had a lot of folks who were getting, they would do an inadvertent or accidental display. They'd be carrying concealed, they reach up to the top shelf in the grocery store and their
I've done that.
firearm, they would see it, and then it become this big issue. And so I think that was just the answer to, well, come on, we need to have some grace here. And then they pushed hard and got open carry, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's check the chat. Oh man, we have Gort is in the chat now. What's going on? CNT Designs. Dale says, hammer the vote 2022. Absolutely. Everybody in the chat, don't think it's in the bag. Go out and vote, 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 and vote twice if you're a Democrat. I'm kidding. Don't do that. But real quick, I'm going to put a link to his channel. The Armed Attorneys, please subscribe to their channel. Man, they are almost at 150,000. They'll be 150,000 by the end of this month, easy. So let's help push them over the 150K. That's big, man. You got to be proud of the progress of your channel.
Yeah, what my original goal, because we started the channel really October. We took the name and did a bunch of stuff, but we didn't really start publishing till October of last year. And my goal for October of this year, last month was, man, if we could just get 1,000 subscribers, I'll be so happy. And man, all my expectations have been blown out of the water.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's a great channel. It's solid information, and it's Jared and you guys now. I love, and then 2AEDU sometimes. I like that guy. He's a little funky. Let's see. Is there any more questions from the chat? No, I think that's it. So what's next for your channel?
So we're upgrading. We're kind of reinvesting in the channel, building out a set. Hopefully we can, because right now we kind of have a little cramped space. I don't know if you can really tell, but it's Emily and I, and we're really squished up on this table. But we're kind of building it out to where we could have 4 people chatting. We can have some guests. We're going to have a kind of little, we're going to call it the armchair attorney seat. The guy sitting off on the side of the chair.
Oh no.
And we'll
the
get
seat.
we'll get our law partner Edwin in there to rant about all kinds of crazy stuff. He's pretty good at that.
You should make it an electric chair.
Ooh, I like that.
And then have him sit in it with the throw cone above the top.
Yeah,
that would be hilarious.
We're definitely doing that.
So since you're in Houston, and if we get in trouble and we don't have CCW safe or anything, can we call your firm? And
yeah, no, we're a full service criminal defense firm. We do all kinds of stuff. WalkerTaylorLaw.com. If from whatever it may be, from a possession crime up to murder. I mean, we handle everything in between. Driving while intoxicated. We do NFA trusts.
All right. So everybody, hold on. What is the phone number to the firm? Do you have it handy?
Yeah. No, it's 281-668-9957.
9957?
Yep.
All right. Everybody, open your cell phone. Put this phone number I'm putting in the chat in your phone. So if anything ever happens to you, shut up. Call this number. Shut up. Call this number. Leave a message. Make sure you shut up. Don't forget that part. And then leave them a message and then shut up. Don't say anything until they call you back. And then, make sure you shut up too, because that's the really important part here. Don't say anything.
Or if you go to our website, WalkerTaylorLaw.com, under our contact tab, you can download our virtual card, save it to your phone. It's really easy.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see what's going on with your channel. I mean, it's growing at a amazing pace. The content is there. The videos are on point. The laws are really cool. The thumbnails. Who does your thumbnails?
So that's our producer and office manager, Jen. Jen is we have some general ideas. I'll say, hey, I want and I'll just say something ridiculous, and she makes it come to life. I don't know how she does it, but
And they're great. They are great. I mean, yeah, this channel looks like you've been doing it for 4 or 5 years already.
yeah, we try to learn. We try to be quick learners.
Dale says, "Why can we not sue for civil rights violations against 2A?"
No, it's a tough uphill battle, and part of it is so a civil rights violation. That's Section 1983 under the United States Code. They have made it so difficult. We have all different levels, kinds of immunity. For example, judges have absolute immunity; can't sue a judge for a civil rights violation. Prosecutors, qualified immunity; police officers, qualified immunity. And the standards are just really stinking high. And you would think the federal government, because that's where this comes up most frequently, there would be some expedited justice in this area. But these lawsuits are expensive.
Right.
The damages, and this is how I think about lawsuits. You're trying to make yourself whole. A lot of times we have civil rights violations all over the place. But when you look at the actual damages, put a dollar sign on the cop taking or confiscating your firearm for 24 hours. That's tough for a jury to put a dollar sign on. So we see that problem as well, but it's tough. It really is.
Yeah, nothing scares me more than like the red flag laws. I mean, God, how that thing can be abused so badly, and nobody is held accountable for false police reports. I mean, the slap on the wrist.
Yeah. And thank God, I mean, in Texas, I want to say last legislative session, we had about 30 different versions of red flag laws offered up. And we see them, they look different all over the United States, but they range from affidavit, sworn statement by a peace officer to anonymous tip by whoever, unsworn testimony. And so these things have, and what we see is it turns into these palaces of perjury, just like that's what we call the family law courts, because it's just complete abuse and retribution. We see that with orders all over the place. And so we really have to guard against that.
Right. CNT has a question. Where are armed attorneys licensed to practice? Is it Texas only?
Yes. Hey, CNT, good to see you. Yes, we are licensed and we handle cases in the state of Texas, but we do have great friends and a great network all over the United States. If you need a referral, if we can't help you, call our office or you message our office, we can't help you. We know lawyers all over the place and we can give you a great referral.
Yeah. Some of these regulations are shutting down millions of dollars in interstate commerce. Why can we not use the interstate commerce clause to sue the government?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what the founders argued over. They thought that the abuse in the Constitution was going to come out of the necessary and proper cause. They said, wow, this is just a blank check for the federal government to grow to whatever size. Little did they know that it was going to be the Commerce Clause. And the courts they are so reluctant to take the authority away from the federal government because we see, I bet 90% of all federal laws passed are justified under the Commerce Clause.
Right.
We just don't see the will to fix it.
It's crazy. Man, well, you don't have to worry about that because we're going to be out of diesel fuel in about 4 or 5 days. And then, hey, there's no more interstate commerce.
Yeah, that solves the problem. Golly.
It's bananas. It solves the problem. David Phillips, thank you for the compliment, buddy. Appreciate it. Ron Wayne, good stuff. Ray Bassett, thumbs up, armed attorney. You guys have such a rabid fan base now. So are you guys going to SHOT Show?
Yes, we actually just submitted our applications, just got our applications approved. So this will be our first SHOT Show. So I'm assuming you're going to be there.
Absolutely. Do you have comfortable shoes?
Yeah, we do. Is it necessary?
I don't know if you train or run, but I trained for like 3 weeks where I was walking every day. It wasn't enough. I'm a little on the husky side.
Sure.
So let me tell you, you'll do 25,000 steps in a day.
No way.
If you can swing it, I know you guys are big time lawyers. Try and stay right there at the event because it will save you so much headache.
So this year, is it at the Venetian? Is that what it's at?
Yeah, it's the Venetian, and the other wing is called the Palazzo.
The Palazzo, okay.
The Palazzo is nice. Those rooms are so nice. I'll be staying in the Santa Quinta Cacadillo down the road. Some little roach motel. No, I'm kidding. But it's bad. Like, it's so expensive, but it's so much fun. And we'll definitely hook up while you're there.
Oh yeah.
And there's everyone's having dinners with everyone else. It's a lot of fun. Are you going there to see anybody in particular, or
No, we're we're newbies to this, so we're just gonna go and
you'll
eyes
have the
wide
best
open,
time?
and
You'll have the
we'll
best
just say
time.
yes to everything, do everything, and
Well, definitely get the most comfortable shoes you have. Don't try
okay.
and dress up fancy, because yeah, I made that mistake. I ended up throwing out I brought a blazer. I just chucked it. I'm like, I don't need this. I'm not walking back to the hotel. I was like, how much do I like this one? I just threw it away.
So what shot show is this for you?
This is number 2. So I
Okay.
went last year with my first time, and man, I thought I was doing great. My wife came with me, and I'm like, man, we saw this whole room in one day. It's amazing. Well, apparently that was just the top floor of one room, and there was still the whole other building, and then the other building.
Wow.
So it was an event, man. It is so much fun. You'll have the best time of your life. Are you a Vegas person?
Oh yeah. No, I grew up with a full-sized craps table in my house. So
I'm a
yeah.
craps guy myself.
Oh yeah. Then we're playing craps.
Do you know how to throw the dice?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Nobody wants to play craps with me.
Oh, okay. You got me.
I love it. The last time I was in Louisiana, I had $35. I put it on the pass line, and we left with 3,800.
Holy smokes.
It was the best time I've ever had. Well, there was these Hawaiian guys there, and they were doing the dice throws, and they couldn't lose, man. It was amazing.
Yeah.
They were real. They were pros. They were pros.
When craps, they've made the game very expensive. The table minimums now are so stinking high, but the it's just it's a team sport,
It is.
and so that's why I like it.
Yeah, there's always that one jerk that bets against the table. God,
Yeah.
I hate that guy. But yeah, the last time, I mean, I had such a good time. Every time I go to Vegas, if I could find a $10 table, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Because now it's all $20 minimums, and before you know it, I mean, scared money has lost money in Vegas. So usually you have about $230 on the table on your bets at one time. And then if you crap out 2 or 3 times in a row, it's a little painful.
Oh yeah.
But well, I don't want to keep you all night, but man, I tell you what, this is so much fun. I hope we can do this again after shot.
Oh yeah,
And,
big time.
You're gonna have a blast, absolute blast. Real quick, guys, I am gonna post a link to their channel. If you're not a subscriber, please like and subscribe to the Arm Attorneys. There's more than one. Just the other one couldn't make it tonight because she has a little one, kind of fussy. And if you have kids, that can take up your whole night. If you're not a subscriber of mine, please subscribe to my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Any last words, Richard?
No, I'm just very grateful to spend some time with you, spend some time with your subscribers. I'm watching the chat. Y'all seem like a very, very fun group of people. And, please, we got to hang out sometime. And we got to go play craps.
100%. I have a buddy that has a table, and I need to practice a little bit before shot because it's my favorite game in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.